Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another postgraduate live stream. This one is all around fees and funding. So if you're watching or you have any questions, we're going to be here for the next half an hour answering any questions you may have. I'm going to be your host. I'm Georgia, and I'm from the Business and Law Marketing team. I know nothing about fees and funding, so I had to bring along an expert. So I'd like to introduce Darren. Darren is part of our DMU student finance team.
Hello.
Lovely to have you, Darren.
Thank you. Looking forward to helping guide students through the difficult, complicated area of postgrad student finance.
Well, we are very happy to have you here. As I say, Darren's going to be here for the next half an hour, and he is your expert on all things master's loans and additional funding. I'm already pointing it out there, Darren.
Digging me up.
So if you do have any questions, please drop them in the comments. So I think a good place to start off with, Darren, is just a bit of an introduction to the master's loan, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so it is a complicated area, and there are some differences with the master's funding compared to undergraduate funding. So a lot of people watching are interested in getting a master's loan will already have an undergraduate loan from Student Finance England, and it's similar but very different as well at the same time. So it's a non-means tested loan. So there's the first difference to undergraduates for postgraduate masters. SLC, Student Finance England, are not interested really in what your earnings are or what your household income is, what mum and dad earns, what your partner earns, etc., etc. It's non-means tested loan. So if you're eligible for it, you'll get the full amount. It's not reduced because of what your income is or anything like that. I should say at the outset, we're talking about Student Finance England postgraduate masters loans here. This is for people that ordinarily would reside in England. If you are someone who would normally live in Wales or Northern Ireland or Scotland, then we are talking about something which is different. So you'd need to ask questions maybe at the end, put a question in, and we can contact you and talk more specifically about the loan products that are available for people that live in those countries. So the other key difference about the postgrad master's loan, say it's £11,222 if you're starting your course in the academic year 21-22, slightly less if you're starting 2021, so in the next month or so, and it's paid directly to you. So that's a difference where if you had an undergraduate degree and you had a maintenance loan and a tuition fee loan. Obviously, the maintenance loan was paid to you, but the tuition fee loan to pay your fees was paid to the university. With the postgrad master's loan, it's all paid to the student. So you use that money how you see fit, and it's a contribution to your funding. So Student Loans Company, Student Finance England sees it as a part of your overall funding that you will sort out in other ways, part-time work or whatever. It's for you to make the fee arrangements with the university to make the payments. So the money all comes to you, and it's down to you how you make those or how you spend it. Most will spend it on fees, obviously. And it's paid 3 times a year. So depending on how long your course is, so if you're on a 1-year full-time master's course, you'll get paid in 3 installments. If you're on a part-time course over 2 years, you'll get 6 installments. So you'll get 3 in each year, approximately 50% in each of the loan amount in each of those years. There are some issues around previous qualifications of what the Student Loans Company call equivalent level qualifications. So if you already have a master's or a PhD or something like that, then you're not going to get a master's loan if you've already got it. They regard it as you've already got one. So we don't need to fund you for another one. And the fees, of course, as well. That's another difference with the undergraduate one. So our undergraduate courses, the fees are for bachelor's level courses are always the same amount, £9,250 per year currently. With the master's courses, you will find that there's quite a broad difference between the tuition fees that are charged for your courses. Varies from faculty to faculty, and quite within faculties as well can vary. So some courses with may have a reasonable amount of money, 5,000-ish perhaps, but some of the business courses are up well in excess of 10,000. So when you're making plans for your funding, you need to take into account the actual fee, and the fee can be different depending on what course you do and which faculty you study in.
Thank you for that, Darren. So you mentioned some of the eligibility criteria. So you said the master's loan is for students within England only. Is there any other criteria eligibility?
Yeah, so you've got different types. You've got residency. So it's normally for people that have been living in England for 3 years prior to the start of the academic year in which their course starts. So for most students who are starting in September or October, the first day of the academic year, from Student Finance England is the 1st of September. So you need to be living in the UK for 3 years prior to that and be able to prove it if you're asked. Not everyone is asked, but they do ask some people to prove it. There is a difference for whether if you're an EU student, if you're starting in 2021 to if you're starting in 21-22, because the rules are changing because of Brexit, and the government has changed the regulations. So if you're an EU student, hoping to get a postgraduate master's loan, if it's 2021, if you're starting this coming academic year, should be okay, as long as you meet the other standard criteria for getting a master's loan. If you want to come in 21-22, things are changing quite significantly, and there are quite complicated rules about those EU students who will remain eligible for funding. So you'd need to be here for 3 years, living here for 3 years. For the moment, you can come to the UK as an EU citizen, as long as you've been living in the EU or the EEA for 3 years prior to your course starting. You can come to the UK or to England to study on a course with DMU and still get student finance, a postgraduate master's loan. Those rules are changing for 21-22. So the other key ones to think about, age. You've got to be under the age of 60. Most students will be under the age of 60, but we may have some mature students who are wanting to study. You need to be under 60 on that 1st of September, first day of the academic year, that you are starting your course in. So you need to be under 60. And you can't have arrears as well from Student Finance England. So obviously you can have a debt to them. Most people will already have an undergraduate loan from them, and that's not a problem at all. It's where if you owe them student loans company or Student Finance England money, so perhaps you've entered repayment with your undergraduate payments, they've told you need to pay a certain amount back, but you haven't paid that amount back yet. That could prevent you from having a postgraduate master's loan. But ordinarily, as long as you're if you've got an undergraduate loan, absolutely fine to get a postgraduate master's loan at the same time. And when we talk about repayments in a little bit, we'll identify some of the differences about how the repayments work and stuff.
Thank you for that, Darren. So you've spoke about how sort of some of the eligibility criteria for students. Is there any sort of courses that aren't eligible for the master's loan? Is there any difference there?
Yeah, and it's quite a key area where there is difference between undergraduate and postgraduate funding. So undergraduate, most courses are eligible. 99.9% of courses that DMU run undergraduate are eligible for funding. With the postgrad ones, much different, and there are restrictions about course length and the type of course that you're doing as well. So you have to be doing a master's. You can't be doing any other postgraduate diploma or postgraduate certificate. You have to enroll on a master's course. You also have to be doing 180 credits as well. So each master's course that's the number of credits you need to pass in order to gain your master's award. So you need to be doing 180 credits from the start. Some courses that we do are top-ups, where if you've already got a postgrad certificate, or diploma, you can just do the remaining credits to top up to a final master's award. Those aren't 180 credits. You're only doing 60 or 120. So you can't get a master's loan for those. We don't have many of those, but there are a few. Um, where it is more flexible is that you can be part-time, full-time, distance learning. It doesn't matter. All of those categories are fine in terms of the way you're actually studying. And then we get into the issues around course length. And most people will just do a full-time, 1 year full-time course. Absolutely fine. You'll get your loan in 3 installments over the course of the year. It's fine. Some people may do part-time course. And if you can do a part-time course of up to 2 years, if there's a 1 year full-time version. Where we have some issues around eligibility is in the way that some of our courses are arranged. There are a couple of courses in the business and law faculty, and a few more in our chem faculty for the computing, where the courses, the part-time versions of the courses, are flexible in how they are structured. So they kind of, rather than them being 1 year full-time and 2 years part-time, they're actually 2 to 6 years part-time, and the pace of the study is determined by the student. But those ones where there isn't a fixed end date, you could all do it in 2 years, but the regulations don't allow you to be funded for a course that lasts longer than 2 years if you wanted to. So this is where there are problematic things around it. So when you're making your application for funding, make sure you find an exact match for your course within the application process. If you can't find the course you're doing or the mode, or you can only find the full-time version and you want to do the part-time version, you need to contact us to clarify whether it's eligible. So it needs to have a fixed end date. There's also no repeat funding as well. That's an important difference as well. So if you're an undergraduate student and you want to repeat a year because of maybe you've failed some modules, or you've maybe had illness or whatever, and you've had to interrupt and come back to repeat a year, you can't do that at master's level. So if you're doing part-time and you fail the first year, you won't get funded in the second year until you've returned you've progressed on your course until the point where you left it. So so some key differences there, but most cases it's really straightforward. Students will do 1 year full-time, 2 years part-time, master's loan, straightforward. But there are, if you think you might be on a course that's not eligible, you're not sure about how many credits you're doing, then contact us. We've got the contact details, and we can put those up at the end for you to know where to come if you want more information. There they are up on the screen already.
Yeah, and as Darren says, we'll pop these in the comments as well. So if you do need that additional support, or you have any other questions, then you can get in touch. Now, you touched on it a little bit earlier, and you said that the repayments, the way that a student will repay the master's loan, is slightly different to what you're doing at undergraduate level. Can you just explain a little bit more about that process and how it's different?
Yes, can do. It is different. And the first thing that you will notice is the threshold is different. So it's done in the same way as undergraduate. So it's all done via your earnings. So if you go into the repayment and you're earning over the threshold, the money will be deducted straight from your wages. So there's nothing, you haven't got to muck about with direct debits or sending them money or anything like that. It's all done via your wages and your company wages department. Where it does differ from undergraduate is the threshold as well. So undergraduate, the threshold is around about 26,000 ish now. I think it's changed this year. And you pay back 9% of your earnings over that amount. With the postgrad one, and this is why you'll start to repay, most people will start to repay their postgrad loan before they start to repay their undergraduate loan. The threshold is lower. So it's 21,000 is the threshold. But you're paying a smaller amount back. So it's a 6% deduction. And that's 6%. It's not 6% of 21,000 because that's a big chunk of your money. It's 6% of any earnings over 21,000. So if your earnings are 25,000, all you're paying is 6% of the difference between 25,000 and the threshold, which is 21,000. So it's 6% of 4,000 divided by 12, and that will give you a monthly figure of how much you would have to repay. And the loan is it's obviously subject to interest as well, and the interest rate currently is 5.6%. So that's 3% plus the inflation rate, RPI inflation rate, if you're interested in those sort of figures, which is currently 2.6%. So adds up to 5.6, and that's the rate you'll pay on your loans from the first point they're paid. And the final thing to say, not recorded on your credit score, so it won't have an impact on any credit you might apply for a loan or mortgage or whatever in the future, as long as you're not in default. You haven't gone into, they're not chasing you for money with this from the student loans company. The loan belongs to the student, so it doesn't belong to anybody else. And if you haven't repaid it after 30 years, then they will write it off, which means you don't have to repay it. But 30 years is a long time away, so yeah, you might want to not want to think about that yet.
Thank you so much for that, Darren. We are just over halfway, so we're going to be around for like another 12 minutes. So if you do have a question for Darren, just pop them in the comments and we'll get those answered for you. So Darren, if a student has applied for a master's and then they want to apply for this master's loan, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, it's reasonably straightforward. That's one of the other differences as well. Many of you may have had, nightmare experiences with student finance in England in the past. It's not unheard of. It's much more straightforward with the master's loan. As I said before, it's not means tested, so you're not having to provide financial information from parents or partners or anything else. And you apply directly. So you use the same account as you would do for your undergraduate one. So most of you will already have an account. So you just log in with your usual login. We've got the address, I think, on one of the links we can show you there. And you only need to apply once as well, which is another difference between undergraduate. You only apply once for your finance throughout. So if you're on a 2-year course, you still only need to apply in just the first year. You can apply for it, and then the second year it just rolls it over automatically. That's another difference with the undergraduate, where obviously you have to apply for your funding every year. Much more straightforward. It's quicker. A couple of weeks is usually how long it really takes from submitting your application to getting it approved. And as I said before, Student Finance Wales, Northern Ireland and Scotland have different funding arrangements. So if you're from any of those countries, then need to take separate advice on them. The Welsh one's very similar to the English one, a bit more generous, is means tested. Northern Irish one, very different, much different. It's only a tuition fee loan, and Scotland, completely different altogether. But yeah, we can answer those questions if there's anybody from those countries that needs help. We can take your details and contact you about that.
Yeah, that's perfect. And you might have noticed, to anyone watching, we did have those banners up there where you could find out more information on how to apply, but we'll also pop those in the comments so you can access all of that information. Now, if a student, and obviously I know that we can talk about DMU specific scholarships as well, but if a student was after any other type of funding, what is available to them?
Well, other funding, yeah. I mean, there's other things that are available. We always point students in the way of the Vice Chancellor Scholarship, which is a good one certainly for recent graduates of DMU. That's worth checking out. The link there shows it's fairly comprehensive in terms of what scholarships and bursaries are available to postgrad students. We also have our support fund as well, which is for students who are in financial hardship, which is something, not money that you would rely upon because it's an application process and it's income and expenditure based. And if you're a postgrad student, you'd need to show that you'd what they call made adequate financial provision. That basically means that before you embarked on the course that you made sure that you had money to support yourself while you were doing it. But it's there for emergency situations, and we've helped a lot of people out in the last sort of 6 months because of the COVID situation. And so that's it's for those kind of emergency situations that might not have anticipated before you started, but if something happens and you need some specific financial help, then the support fund is there for you to apply to. And Other general sources of funding that we talk about, part-time work, always a good one. A bit more difficult at the moment because of the situation that we find ourselves in, of course, with COVID. So perhaps a bit less job availability locally, where before, all the bars and restaurants, shops, etc., offices were all open. I would encourage anybody who's interested to explore the DMU front runners and the Unitemps agencies as well, if they're not aware of them, which are the front runners is kind of like a placement scheme for students within DMU, which is very good and is flexible, pays a good rate. It looks good on a CV, often allows you to work on like your own kind of project kind of thing, and you can set it. In most cases, it's very flexible when you can arrange your hours around your studies as well. So that's DMU front runners is quite a good one. And you've got the Unitemps as well, which is recruitment on for university jobs. So that's student ambassadors, various other opportunities around campus worth exploring. Good opportunities come up, helpful in terms of supplementing your student finance, because as I mentioned, it's student financing only consider it to be a contribution towards your funding for the year. So there is an expectation that you source money from other areas, whether that's part-time work, savings, working through the summer, whatever, and Christmas times, vacations and stuff. Those are the sorts of things that we would encourage.
Perfect. Yeah, each faculty has a DMU Works team as well, and they will be able to help you with, as Darren mentioned, the Unitemps and also DMU frontrunners, and potentially help you with your CV and things like that. So if you are a student at DMU and you are after sort of looking for part-time work, get in touch with our DMU Works team within your faculty and they'll be able to support you. Derek, to answer your question, it's not too late to apply for September 2020 courses, and we do also have a range of postgraduate courses that are starting in January 2021. So if you do need more information and you are interested in applying, go to the relevant course page of the programme that you're interested in, and the information on how to apply will be there. Now, just to sort of, before we jump into a little bit of a Q&A, Darren, can you just give us like a little bit more of an insight, because obviously you are Mr. Fees and Funding and you know your stuff about that, but you're part of the student finance and welfare team. Can you just give us a little bit more of an insight as to some of the things that your team does and how they support students?
So we've got two kind of areas of our team. We've got the student finance team, which are the team that I work with, which deal with the kind of issues that come up around student finance. So that's liaising with Student Finance England, dealing with the attendance and registration confirmations, dealing with changes of circumstances when students change their study patterns or whatever, liaising and sending that information to the student loans company. We also deal with smart cards. One part of our team deals with the smart cards, letters, etc., which you can get mostly now from DMU online through your I forget what it's called for students now. What's the thing called for students? Crosses my mind. DMU. I want to call it the hub, but it's not the hub, is it?
Do you mean like My DMU app? Is that the one?
My DMU app, yeah, that's it. You can get it all through that now, with letters for council tax and student status letters and things like that. So we do a lot of that kind of thing. And our welfare team, the other end of the office, they deal with things in relation to financial well-being of students. So they are the ones that administer the support fund. They can help with really in-depth welfare problems that students are having, which involve money. They can liaise directly with Student Finance England as well, where there is a complex, and there will be occasions when there are quite complex problems that students are encountering with their funding applications. So they can deal with those sorts of things, and they operate on a kind of an interview basis. So you check in with them for a quick 15-minute appointment, and then they can kind of like a bit like a doctor's surgery, really sort of try and work out what the problem is, and then refer you on if you think you need to come back for a longer appointment, or something else needs to happen. They'll book you in for a longer appointment, either with a welfare officer or with one of our money doctors. who help with budgeting and student finance problems. So there's quite a lot that we do there, and they run events as well about financial capability, and they also run the Student Money Week, which is every February as well, which is highlighting money issues in relation to various parts of student life. So yeah, our team does lots of stuff, and if you've got queries or anything, if you're an applicant or you want to apply to DMU, then contact us. Obviously, we're here for students throughout their university career, but if you're an applicant, we're happy to help you with your student finance application and anything around student finance. Details are on there, and obviously, if you're a student and you come to DMU, then we're here throughout your university time with us as well. So we've got some links to some of the stuff that we do as well, and use those, and come and see us if you've got a problem, because it might be something small, that you think is worrying you or whatever, and we could put your mind at rest quite quickly, hopefully, with some of those things.
Yeah, it's great to see that there's that support available for DMU students. So as Darren mentioned, we'll pop all the information into the comments box. We have 2 minutes left, Darren. So if you don't mind, I'm going to fire some questions at you, if that's all right.
Let's do them quickly. Give me a 10
Let's get
second.
Let's get them done. So
10-second reply.
My first question for you, Darren, is: do part-time students get the same amount of loan funding?
Yes, is the answer, but you just get it paid over a longer period. So we mentioned it before. 1 year full-time, 3 payments over a year. If you're part-time, 2 years perhaps, you'll get 3 payments in each year, so 6 payments overall. But it's the same amount of money.
Yeah. And if a student is doing a distance learning program, does that change anything, or is it still the same?
No, it's absolutely fine. Distance learning is absolutely fine. It's as long as the course meets the criteria around course length and the student's doing a master's, then usually it's absolutely fine. We do have some distance learning courses which are 15 months, 27 months for some of our law courses. So it's an acknowledged and perfectly fine from a student finance perspective. Doesn't matter at all if it's distance learning, part-time, full-time, it's fine.
Perfect. And when can students apply for a postgraduate loan?
Well, the cycle opens, what we call the cycle, so the application cycle where you can make your application apply, opens every year round about sort of mid-May to June. This year it was a bit later because of all the COVID stuff going on, but normally it's mid-May, and it's reasonably straightforward. So if you want to apply for 2021, so this coming academic year, you can apply now. If you want to come in 21-22, you'll need to wait until mid-May-ish next year. And the deadline in terms of applying is it's 9 months from the start of the academic year. It's the same for undergraduate as well. So it's 9 months counting from the 1st of September. So you want to apply for funding, you might start on your course and not think you need any funding, and then realise actually that will be helpful, this has happened or whatever. You can still make your application. Normally up until the end of May, so 31st of May, you can make your application. And if you're on a part-time course or a course that's longer than 1 year, you can actually apply in any year of your course and still get the full amount of funding. So in that scenario, didn't want to do it in the first year, in your second year, actually I need some help with the money, you can apply it, still get the full amount.
Perfect. I think that is all that we have time for today. So as we mentioned, all of the information and where to access a little bit more help if you need it. So the student advice and the SAS email address will all be in our comments box. I'd like to say a massive thank you for Darren for joining us today and helping us navigate through this, like you say, a little bit of a complicated process. If you would like to have a little bit more of a chat, if you have any more questions surrounding fees and funding, we have a postgraduate online chat that's happening for the next 30 minutes. So please join our postgraduate online chat at the link below. We'll also pop that in our comments box. If not, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your questions and have a lovely day.
Thanks so much. See you later.